About the JavaScript hoisting. Hoisting means raising up to the top. Hoisting is JavaScript default behavior of moving declarations to the top. JavaScript declarations are hoisted. Let's look at this example, then that will be very easy to understand. Okay, think about this declaration. Even though we are using this assignment here, usually that the declaration to use or to assign here, that should be before this, but this one was declared at last part of this script. This one is automatically raised up on the top. That is called hoisted or hoisting. Exactly like this. I'll cut this and I'll attach this paste on the top. This one is hoisted by the browser. When that is interpreting this one, that will be hoisted automatically like that. That is called hoisting. Even though that is declared at the last, that will be hoisted exactly like this. Thus we can execute this one even though that is here. We can get the same result without any error. Okay, let's look at other example here. Okay, yeah, exactly. This one is explaining, and I showed already this one. This one is hoisted automatically like this. Thus, even though that is declared at the bottom, that will be hoisted on the top like that. That is called hoisting. Okay, this one is about let and const variables and constants. To declare, we can use this one, and those are not hoisted. We learn in the following chapters. Okay, let's look at this one. JavaScript initializations are not hoisted. JavaScript is hoisting declarations, not initializations. This one is showing that with this example. Okay, here those are declared at the same time that is the initialized. Also this y is initialized with the 7, and we can show out that result in this way. This is normal and this is correct one, and if we are trying to show that hoisting here, here variable y equals 7, that is put at the bottom here, and we can check whether that is hoisted or not. Here, if we are checking that result, variable x is 5, that is declared at the same time that is initialized with the value 5. And here we are trying to get the result, the same result like the previous example, but it is not showing properly. This result is wrong. X is 5 because that is initialized and declared, but y, that initialized value is here and that is not hoisted. Thus, this one is not defined, undefined. Thus this initialization will not be hoisted to the top. Thus this example shows that okay, here this is exactly same like this. Y is here declared, and Y is initialized to 7 here, and that is not hoisted. Only this variable declaration that is hoisted, and initialization is not hoisted. This is same to the previous example, thus the result is like that. Y is undefined. Hoisting is an unknown or overlooked behavior of JavaScript. If a developer doesn't understand hoisting, programs may contain bugs or errors. Thus, to avoid bugs, always declare all variables at the beginning of every scope. That means on the top. Okay, let's move to next. Okay, this one I'll skip, but briefly I will introduce. Use strict defines that JavaScript code should be executed in strict mode. That should be executed strictly, and the strict mode is like this. If we are using this use strict directive, that is introduced first time in ECMAScript version 5, and this ECMAScript version 5 was introduced at the year of 2009, or probably 11 years ago. The purpose of use strict is to indicate that the code should be executed in strict mode, and that was supported from this version number for each browser. And how to use that strict mode? Simply we can use like this. Strict mode is declared by adding use strict to the beginning of a script or a function like this. This one is the example. Then let's move to the next chapter. Here, in this way. In this JavaScript statement, in front of the others, we are using this use strict. Then for example, this one is not declared into var, then this will cause an error because X is not defined, not declared. To look at that error, to use that debugging mode, we can use the F12. We'll learn this one in next lecture, in the debugging chapter. Okay, let's move to the next anyhow. This one is not included, and I am skipping this one. Okay, also this one, this keyword is being used many times in JavaScript, and I will show you briefly the basic concept of this one. For example, we are using this keyword here. What does this mean? And depending upon that location where that is being used, the meanings will be different, and we will learn. Okay, here, try it yourself. Okay, return this first name, dot first name, and this dot last name. Because this means the object person. This is belonging to that person object. Thus this means that object. In this example, this represents the person object, because the person object, this one is owning that full name method, this one, this one is belonging to that person object. And this one is explain a little bit more in detail about this. The JavaScript this keyword refers to the object it belongs to. It has different values depending upon where it is used. In a method, if that is used in a method, then this means this refers to the owner object. Used alone, this refers to the global object. In a function, this refers to the global object. But if we are considering strict mode about this function, then this is undefined. But at this moment, neglect this one, and that is beyond our scope here. In an event, this refers to the element that received the event. That may be used a lot. This later we look at this one again in the event handling. Okay, skip this one. And this one, each one is being explained a little more in detail. This, if that is used in a method, in an object method, this refers to the owner of the method. As we observed already, if this is being used in this method and this method is belong to that certain object, then this one is belong to that. The person object is owning that, then that is the owner of that full name method, and this one is belonging to that object. This means that. Thus this represents the person object here, as we learned already in the previous example. Exactly the same. If this one is used alone, the owner is the global object, so this refers to the global object. Thus, if we are trying to get the output about that variable, about that this is assigned to that, and if we are trying to get the output of that, then this one is showing window object. Depending upon the strict mode or not, or unstrict mode, that result may be different. Let's assume if we are using strict mode, when used alone, this also refers to the global object. That is will be the same window object. If this is used in a function, in a JavaScript function, the owner of the function is the default binding for this, and this refers to the global object. If that is being used in this way, okay, here my function, and function is this, and that if that is being used in this way, then that means that is window object. Okay, you can refer to others, and I'll skip others. If you are interested, you can refer to them. Anyhow, we'll use this keyword later on to learn about that one event handling. Okay, this one is about the JavaScript LEC, and this one is introduced first time in the ECMAScript 2015. ES 2015, that means ES 6. This one is introducing two important new JavaScript keywords, let and const. This is similar to the variable and a little bit different. These two keywords provide a block scope. This is new scope. previous chapter, we learned about that global scope and the local scope, and there was no block scope, but this one is newly introduced here, block scope variables or block scope constants. Before ECMAScript 2015, JavaScript had only two types of scope, global scope and the function scope, and this one is newly included in this ECMAScript 2015. Okay, here. This is the example as we learned. Nothing special here. This one is about the global scope and the global variable. Here we can see this one. We can access as we learned already. There's nothing special here. In summary, global variables can be accessed from anywhere in a JavaScript program. And this one is about local scope, or if that is being used in function, then that is called the function scope. Variables declared locally inside the function have a function scope, like this. This one is declared inside of that function, then that is local variable. And the scope is function scope. And outside, that cannot be accessible, like this. We cannot see. I'll erase that type and let's see. We cannot see any result here because that is undefined. That is local variable, and the scope is local scope. If that is being used in the function, then that is called the function scope. In summary, local variables can only be accessed from inside the function where they are declared. Then, what's the block scope? This is the new concept. Variables declared with the variable keyword, var keyword, cannot have block scope. Variables declared inside the block, these curly braces, can be accessed from outside the block. Okay, let's look at this one. Before ECMAScript 2015, JavaScript did not have block scope. This one is newly introduced at the year of 2015, when that ECMAScript 6 is introduced. Variables declared with the red keyword can have block scope, and now we are learning that. And this one is we'll use some near application here instead of this plain explanation. The declaring variables. Here, if we are using this example 10, it will be clear to understand. Here, variable is declared, x is declared, and that initial value is 10. And here, this is block, curly braces. Inside of that, that is, this seems to be block, but no difference. If we are declaring this one, then we can declare. Also here, nothing special. Even outside that curly braces, still that newly declared variable value x is 2. Thus outside here we can get it. Until here, nothing special and no explanation about the block scope, no explanation about let keyword. Here, instead of the variable here, if we are using let keyword here, then only in that block that will be meaningful. That is called block scope. Only in that block of that curly braces. That declaration and that X value, that is meaningful. Outside, that is the in different scope. This one is not affecting. This one is affecting. Here X is 10. This one X equal 2, that is visible and accessible only in that block of these curly braces. That is called block code. Thus, if we are trying to get out that output, then that will be 10. Okay, with this one we can understand a little bit about the block code, and that keyword is let. And in terms of the supportability, probably recently, for example, Edge 12 instead of the Internet Explorer, this one is supporting Chrome 949 from March 2016. Recently, that is being supported. The let keyword is not fully supported in Internet Explorer 11 or earlier version. Thus, only recent version of each browser can support this one. The loop scope, using var in loop, for example, let's look at. If we are using variable here, and that is being changed, right? And finally, that variable incremented here, that will be shown here, even outside of that for loop block here. But if we are using let instead of that var, then outside, and this one is changed to inside, this one is changed to 10, but outside, if we are trying to get that value, then that is this one, not this one, not incremented 10 to 10. That is different from that. Okay, let's look at this real example. Here I is 5. If we are using var, then that was 10. Let's remind the previous result. Thus that is related to the block scope. Function scope, variables declared with var and let are quite similar when declared inside a function. They will both have function scope, like this. Variables declared with var and let are quite similar when declared outside of block. They will both have global scope, like this. And let's look at some example here. Here we are using var keyword, and this car name was declared Volvo. Initial value was Volvo. And if we are trying to show out that result, car name, then that is Volvo. That is exactly same to the previous example. And if we are, even though we are removing that, and still we can get the same result. But if we are using let keyword instead of var, let's look at what's happening here. And if we are trying to use this one, okay, let's leave this explanation first. In HTML, global variables defined with let will not become window variables. This one, if we are using VAR, then this one is becoming and belonging to the window object. But if we are using let keyword, then it is not belonging to that window object. Thus, if we are using this window object here, like our previous example, when we are using VAR, then it is not showing the result that's undefined, because that is not belonging to the window object. If we are removing this one, let's see, then we can see without that limitation, using that window object, that we can show out the proper result. Declaring a JavaScript variable with VAR is allowed anywhere in a program. Like this. So simple. But when we are declaring a variable with let in the same scope or in the same block, that is not allowed here. Example will be shown later, and here just simply showing some example. If X is declared with the VAR here, that is allowed. But if we are declaring again, even with this let keyword, that will not be declared. That is not allowed. Inside, once we declared here, then next one will not be allowed, even though we are using let keyword. Declaring a let variable with let in the same scope or in the same block is not allowed. Okay, this one is allowed because that is the first time, but next one will not be allowed. This one is allowed, but next one will not be allowed. The declaration to the same variable, that is not allowed. Okay, you can refer to others. Okay, about the hoisting, that was briefly commented in the previous hoisting chapter, and this one is explained about that. Again, variables defined if the VAR are hoisted to the top, as we learned already. If we don't know what the hoisting is, read the previous hoisting chapter. Here, let's look at this simple example. Car name, that is being used before the declaration here, and that will be automatically hoisted to the top. But if we are using in this way, then that is not hoisted, and we cannot learn the real example here. That is not provided here. Okay, let's move to next. This one is about the cost, similar to the let, but a little bit different. Similarly to the let keyword, this one was introduced the first time. With this let keyword, this const keyword was introduced first time in this ECMAScript 2015. That is ES6. Variables defined to const behave like let variables, then what's the difference? This one is the difference. They cannot be reassigned. This one cannot be reassigned because this one is similar to the constant. Not exactly same, but conceptually. The constant pi is initialized like that. Then later they cannot be changed. This one is changing that variable value, that is not being changed. That will be error. Okay, if we are trying if we are checking into this try and catch, then you can see we are trying to intentionally reassign it to different value after this declaration with this const, but that is not possible. Error message is this. Type error, assignment to constant variable. That is wrong. Error. Block scope, declaring a variable with const is similar to let, very similar to let when it becomes to block scope. The x declared in the block in this example is not the same as the x declared outside the block. Here, like the previous let keyword example, outside of that curly braces, that let's assume that is a block, and outside of that block that cannot be accessible. Those outside the x value will be 10. Let's look at this real example. In the previous example we learned about the let keyword using LET instead of this, and this one is showing the same result. Even though we are using const keyword. JavaScript const variables must be assigned a value when they are declared. In this way, that is not possible. That is incorrect. Correct method is this. When we are declaring, this one should be initialized. This one is trying to show a clear explanation to avoid any confusion. The keyword const is a little misleading. It does not define a constant value. It defines a constant reference to a value instead. Constant reference to a value. Because of this, we cannot change constant primitive values, but we can change the properties of constant object. Primitive value like this. This one is primitive variable and primitive value. This is const variable, and because of that, that cannot be changed because that is primitive value. Like this. We cannot change constant primitive values. But we can change this one. This is possible. We can change the properties of a constant object. We can change this one. If we are using, okay, let's look at this real example, and then maybe better. Okay, here, this one is declared with the const keyword. Thus the const object. Here, but we can change a property value here, piat, that is changed to this white, changed to red, and owner, this one is not here, but even addition is possible. Adding a property, that is possible, even though that is declared with const keyword. This new property name owner to property value Johnson that is added. Finally, if we want to show that the object and cut owner, then we can see the added property value Johnson. Okay, after closing some open tabs, let's continue. But this one is wrong because this one is declared with this const keyword. This one is trying to reassign this constant object with different property values. That is not possible here. And similarly, constant arrays can change. We can change the elements of a constant array if we are declaring its const. These arrays was declared in this way. It's this const keyword. After that, we can change the element. Also, even addition is possible. It is push. But we cannot reassign this constant array with different array. That is not possible. Okay, the supportability is like this. Recent version of that each browser, those are supporting. Okay, you can refer to others. If we are mixing with the let keyword and the const keyword, and you can see that is allowed. Next one will not be allowed. And first one, this is allowed in this block, but next one will not be allowed. Okay, similarly here, this one is, first one is allowed, next one, that is not allowed. Also, this one is not allowed. Those are not allowed. Here, in this block, this one is allowed, but the others are not allowed at all. Here, if we are using different block and individually, in each block, in different block, they can be declared with this initialization. That is possible. This one is explained again about that hoisting. Variables defined to var are hoisted to the top, as we learned already. But like this. But variables defined with const are not hoisted to the top. There's a const variable cannot be used before it is declared. Thus we cannot use this one. That is wrong. This one is arrow function. Also, this one was introduced the first time in this ECMAScript 6. That means this is exactly the same to the ECMAScript 2015, because that is introduced in that year of 2015. Arrow functions, we are using arrow to show function instead of the function keyword, instead of these curly braces, and we can write shorter function syntax. Instead of this, same on this one, hello, and you can see function, we can remove this one. Instead we can use this arrow. Thus this one is called arrow function. Here the others are same, even, but even this one, the previous, let's go back to the previous one. These curly braces and return, those things can be removed. Thus finally this hello world, that is remaining like that. If we have some parameter within that parenthesis, then we can do that like this. In that parenthesis we can include that parameter. Also we can use that parameter. For that case, we can simplify more. Even parentheses, those can be eliminated. Here, instead of that parenthesis, we can remove that. And this one is exactly the same to this. That is removed. Okay, that is enough about this arrow function, because this is newly introduced in ECMAScript 2015, and that is called ECMAScript 6. Let's move to the next. Okay, I'll skip this one. Also that is introduced first time in ECMAScript 2015, and I'll skip this one. Thus